What's up, traders? I want to talk about the Edgeful initial balance breakout report because this has been one of the biggest helps for me finding, afternoon trend in good plays in the afternoon where I'm not scared of a reversal happening and, I can have confidence in the trend. So going all the way back 5 years, we can using Edgeful, we can go back 5 years, 1 year, 6 months, however long we want. We can create our own reports, which is extremely helpful. And then also we could do this by session, so it's not just limited to New York session traders. But I trade primarily ES in the New York session. So what this report is telling us is the initial balance is the first 1 hour of the day from market open at 9:30 East Coast time to 10:30 East Coast time. That first hour, we take the high and we take the low, and that's the initial balance high and low. And what this stat is telling us is that 68% of the time, on average, in the last 5 years, we break one side of that. This is huge because if 7 out of 10 days, being you have a 70% edge, every 70% edge is incredible. So we can also filter this by weekday, and we could see Monday's a 70%, Tuesday's 69, Wednesday's a little lower at 60, Thursday 69, Friday basically 70. So this is giving us the reason why this was like 69 before is because there's one day of Wednesday and it's not closer to 70. But either way, that 1% difference isn't really going to make a large change in our trading, and it's just good to know that you can go by weekday performance, close, reject. There's so many different ways to filter this that if this specific one, the standard 69%, doesn't speak to you, you can go through and find a different report on the same topic that may speak to you. So this is the live market, live trading account. Everything is going on right now, and this is a valid trade entry that is using this report. So the initial balance is set right here at 7:30. The initial balance low is taken here. And then we get a clean rejection holding the initial balance low, making a lower high, and then we get a break of the low of day VWAP. And this is one of my favorite entries. However, we're trading into, and we'll see, this is important for my trading. What level are we trading into? Because you also don't want to necessarily be trading into the initial balance high or low before it's taken out. So I was not in this trade personally, but you can see the initial bounce low was taken, and then the shorts continued on. Now, my trade, I'm going to be looking for a pullback, maybe to hold the low 20s, holding initial bounce low, coming because the New York VWAP is going to sweep in here as we continue lower, and then maybe I play a short from around here. So it might look something like this. Price comes up, and then we hold around the initial bounce low, the New York VWAP sweeping in here, and then I take the short play. And the reason I can take that short play with more confidence is because the initial bounce low has been taken out, and we know that 68% of the time it wants to continue that way. So looking at this chart, now let's look at some markups of trades that I've taken. Looks pretty similar. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Now, the initial balance in this report is set right here. The initial balance low gets taken out. See, and now this is where the discretion comes into play. And we could talk about my trading group and how I learned from them, but I don't want to be selling at the lowest possible price of the day. So I let this first break of low of day VWAP play out. We get a really nice retracement, set another lower high, and then reject the New York VWAP. Because the initial balance low is taken to the downside, I know we have a 68% we want to close bearish. That is a clean 1R trade. You risk 6 to make 6, and I do believe this continued lower on that day. So this is the first example of using the initial balance to find trade setups in correlation with your own strategy. Here's kind of the opposite. We're trending up. You could see 9 o'clock, like this is West Coast time for me, Pacific Standard Time, because I'm in California. So the initial balance has been taken out to the high side. We find resistance at all-time high VWAP. I take the break of the high of day VWAP, and then we continue higher. What gave me confirmation to take this trade, along with my strategy, is also the initial balance breakout report. Again, very similar. The initial balance was set here. It was set at 730. Breaks and then comes back up to the daily. This is one of my best setups in trend. Rejection of the daily, rejection of the daily, rejection of the daily, with additional confirmation of the initial balance being taken out to the low side. I get a 2-minute trade, 7 points in 2 minutes. I'm happy with that. Now, just to use it on the flip side here, because I think it's important to note that there's different ways to use these reports, and I want to showcase that here. So the initial balance is set. This wick takes out the initial balance high. So we are now know 70% we want to trade to the high side. But there's always going to be those 3 out of 10 days, so I want to be cautious of this. My entry is at the daily VWAP, and I note here I'm trading into this resistance at the 80s, and also I'm trading into the initial balance high. So where's my first take profit? Took profits here in full on the funded accounts. I took profits in full at the top, which is the initial balance high, as well as yesterday's high, as well as the 80s, which we had been struggling to break. On my personal account, I let it ride, see if we can't get a pop. But then I trailed my stop to the initial balance high. So I'm using this price level to gauge where I want to be taking profits, as well as where potential resistance and support will be in the market. And then the last example is me fading the initial balance and then taking a loss because of it. So initial balance is set here. We break the initial balance low. You get a clean retracement. Maybe I'm trying to play the double break stat of the opening range, because you see we didn't break the opening range high. That's also a significant stat. But once the initial balance is set, now the opening range has less weight on it, because the opening range was about the first 15 minutes. The initial balance is about the first hour. So what has more weight on it? The initial balance in this case. I faded that, percentage that I faded the Edgeful report and took a loss. This ends up continuing to low of day and continuing lower. So if you're not even going to take trades from it, use it as a way to find trades to stay out of, if that makes sense. So this is one of my favorite reports. You can see how useful it is, especially if you're an afternoon trader on the West Coast like me. And I highly suggest everyone get Edgeful. The link to the affiliate will be in down below, and we'll do this again soon.